Hey, I'm Zach Daniel of Victorian Finance.
And I'm Luke Barksdale with Viz3D Space.
We're your co-hosts for Constructive Conversations, and we're going to talk to you about all things new construction that will help educate you so you're feeling more prepared to venture into the home building and home buying process.
That's right. And today we're joined with Val Collier with PDG Homes. He's been building houses for a little bit over 10 years, and we're going to be breaking down the home building process step by step so that you'll know exactly what to expect when you're building your dream home.
So when people hear new construction, they often imagine the walls going up. But I know there's a lot that happens before then. So Val, if you would, kind of walk us through the first steps of the home building process before there's even ground broken.
Yeah, pulling a permit is a lot more than, hey, we're ready to build and let's go get the permit, let's start next week. There's a lot of behind the scenes work, working with city officials, you're working with your inspectors as well, the planning department. So, there's a lot of boxes that you got to check, surveys got to be completed. And need to be able to turn all that information in. That takes a couple weeks and stuff like that to get all that approved. And then, from there, there may be some revisions that are needed, something that the city doesn't like, or setbacks, or something that was not, designed appropriately. So we will, work on that, get it fixed, and, get it approved. And at that point, then your permit is ready to go.
So this, what you said just a second ago, like setbacks and stuff, what are some things that like homeowners need to be aware of when they are getting their permit? Like, what do they need to be thinking about ahead of time when they're talking to designers and the builder?
I would say keep the end goal in mind. What are you looking for in your home? Is there a certain design style or something that you want to have? Such as, how wide is the home? Do you want to maximize the footprint of the lot? Do you want to, keep it narrow and skinny so you got more side yard? There's a lot of things that they need to, keep in mind and think about, and just be open to creativity and, kind of just work that process with your builder or whatever. I think that's a few things that they need to think about.
Sure, man.
So, I guess you talked about the setbacks, and that makes sense. So I'm assuming just city easements and things really play in part, and when you're pulling a permit to make sure the house you want to build fits the land that you own, right?
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward, I guess permits are approved, your plans are set, you've designed everything. Can you walk us through kind of what happens when clearing and pouring the foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. So before we start clearing, we'll get a survey. We want to make sure first that we're building on the correct property. And
that's important.
Yeah, extremely important. Yeah, we don't want to buy the neighbor's property. So, I'll work with my survey company. They'll come out, stake the property, lay the corners out, stuff like that right there. Because property pins have been known to move. There's some other people, cutting grass or something like that may move the property pin 1 foot. So it's always better to, have a survey company involved. Then from there, we'll get the pins set and, we'll lay out the foundation, and then we start working on the elevation of the home, how many steps and stuff like that right there. And is it going to be a block and fill? Is it going to be a monolithic slab, or is it going to be a crawl space?
So how do you decide? Because I know in design we run into it where like we design them a house and we design them a crawl space and it's got 3 steps up to the front, and then they go and they put it on the lot and that's got 8 steps up at the front because there's some fall. So how are you deciding as a builder what like type of foundation they're going to get? First of all, like what type, and then second of all, like how do you get that vision of maybe I don't want 8 to 10 steps going up the front? How do you kind of account for that?
Of course I would like to be involved in all of the house designing, but sometimes I get plans that are not given to me. And in that situation, what I tell the homeowner is basically we just work together. You tell me what it is that you need. And then, a large factor is the land that you already got, the elevation, the terrain, and stuff like that right there. But, specifically, if you're like, hey, I want 3 steps going into the house. I need to know that when I'm digging the footing, so that way, I can form my wall up to a certain height. A lot of things that can get overlooked would be like the floor assembly. So if you're doing a crawl space, I already know that it's 18 and a quarter inches because you got your top plate, your eye joist, your subfloor. So essentially out of that, you already got two steps.
Right.
So yeah, I forgot your question.
No, it's fine, man. So, how do you determine what kind of foundation you're going to be getting?
Whether it's going to be a crawl space or a slab, or, is it just strictly the land, or what's that factor?
Yeah, I would say the land plays the most important part, because if you're trying to put a monolithic slab on a basement lot, it's just not going to work. Ultimately we can work to be able to get you what you want, but the land is really important, and that's why I always advocate that come talk to us first. Figure out a time for us to meet on your site, before you go and work with Luke or whatever the case may be, so we can advise, consult you, and if you're like, hey, getting up in age and I want to make my house as mobile friendly as possible, so between the two of us and creating the design and then building it, we can give you what it is your dream is.
Right. I would imagine that could be filling in land to flatten it out.
Oh yeah. I've got a good example. Actually, we worked on a project together. It's called the Patel Project, and then he's building it right now and getting ready to finish it up. And there was a elevation, and then we had designed it. I believe it was flush, like a 0 entry, and then there was an elevation change that we hadn't accounted for in the design. And so he called us up and said, "Hey, I need you to come out here. I need you to look at this foundation." We met him and the foundation guy out there, and kind of on the fly, we go, "Okay, these are the adjustments we're going to make." And having a knowledgeable builder that has an open line of communication with the design team, and having knowledgeable subs, we're standing out there, and the foundation guy goes, "Hey, I'm just going to hold this wall down. We're going to pour it like this. Good to go." It's going to have like 2 steps coming into it.
Yeah.
Kind of sorted it out on the fly. So
let's not overlook how quick he got out there. I called Luke and was just like, "Hey, we got a slight issue because in construction it's never major. We can always fix it."
Right.
But next day, Luke and we met out there, like you said, with the foundation guy, and we got it resolved.
Yeah. So, I guess, what are common surprises that you think people would run into at this stage in the process? Would foundation elevation changes be kind of the most common, or are there others?
you should run in like rock or something like that.
Yeah,
may throw you for a loop on a foundation.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, everything's going well. We're out there digging. We're hitting red, beautiful dirt. And next thing you know, you hear the teeth on the bucket make a loud noise. You've hit some rock. That does not make for fun time. So, usually at that point, I'll have a geotechnical engineer. I'll work with them to figure out, if we can remove the rock, or if we need to, dowel into it or something like that. But unfortunately for the homeowner, that's one of those things where you really don't know till you start digging. Mm-hmm. And that's where, where in our budget we'll have contingency items, stuff like that, to be able to help offset that cost.
But how much time do you think that, again, I know it's specific per the job, but is that like a week-long shift or 2-week-long shift that may happen to a project? Because I know like time for a homeowner is one of the more frustrating things, but what do you see happening when something like that comes along?
I'd say it really depends, honestly. It can be anywhere from a couple days to a couple weeks, just depending on
Yeah.
where you are. Here specifically in our area in Huntsville, and as we get closer to Chapman Mountain and stuff like that, it's almost a guarantee that you're going to hit a rock or something
Sure.
like that. And like I said, it could delay it, a couple days, a couple weeks, but ultimately, it's not that long of a process.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
So, at the point where the homeowner really starts seeing their home come to life and the walls go up, about how long would you say it takes from going from foundation to walls up on a house?
Like in the dry.
Yeah, pretty quick,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
No. The rain.
Right. Yeah. So, usually, depending on the size of the house, we could have it, framed up in a couple weeks, and then shortly after that, you have your roof and your windows in. A generic ballpark range from foundation pour to dry in, I would say, could range anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks, something like that.
Okay.
Awesome. So you guys are specializing more on like some pretty high end homes right now. As far as those go, like the key stages buyers are expecting from that. Y'all are working with the design team, interior designers. There are a few more steps involved in the homes y'all are doing versus like just your everyday home. We talk about those a little bit. What are you seeing as far as the stages of the build?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. There's as the homes get larger, or I would say as my client dreams more, I'm there to assist and help them any way that I can. So at that point, it becomes bigger than just a draftsman, architect, and a builder. I may have MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers involved. I'll have obviously a survey crew. May have to have a geotechnical engineer. We'll have people working on interior design selections. We'll do automations of the home, low voltage designs. It's really a lot of people coming together to make some of these homes that we do work out best for our client.
Yeah, when you get into these high end homes like that, it's almost a light commercial project at that point.
Right.
Like it's that close to being commercial. And then like your standard houses, you got the framing, plumbing, drywall, finishes. Where you're really adding on is those high end products that you're talking about. One of the things we get into, and I think me and you have talked about it before, is like finishes and chasing that with a client through a project. When is a good time? What's the most efficient thing clients can do to help you as a builder with their finish selections?
Believe it or not, I think not just myself, but I would say all builders probably say this, but it helps us when you make your selections up front.
Mm-hmm.
I know specifically for us, selections are important. We actually just had a scenario yesterday. So basically, building a house in Tennessee, it's beautiful stamped concrete, cedar porch, all that kind of stuff. And I was telling them, like, I really don't want to just pour this slab and that's the end of it. I think in an outdoor space like this, you need some floor plugs. And I want to put that in, and I think it's gonna add character. You're not gonna have extension cords coming across and stuff like that. So they think about finished product, whereas I think a little bit more about what it's gonna look like, the functionality of it. I don't want nobody tripping over the extension cord. Mm-hmm. So it's always my job to mention errors or mistakes that previous clients have made. So I want to help the clients as much as I can.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some of the more common like change orders you get in a job? And by change order, it's you got the design, you've started building, and then halfway through they're like, well, I want something else.
So I would say I run into that a lot, with plans that are already completed. that we was not there to work with them. And I've saw some people, I've had a house framed up before, and they're like, we don't like it. We really want to change the entire thing of it. So we've added on to it. We've made modifications. Pretty much every change you could think of, I've dealt with. But kind of like Luke. With Luke, when he's drawing the plans, it's a finished product. So it's a virtual walkthrough. So you're able to visualize and see your entire home before we even break ground. That's one of the things that makes Luke so special is his company, like, not only just provides like a 2D drawing, but it's more helpful for me because the client can see their trim, their doors, their paint colors, and visualize it before we start. So
Right.
he does a really incredible job with that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we're trying to knock out those change orders that you run into because it's like you're talking about. If you have, hey, I found this plan online, and they get in there, they don't realize, and they take for granted that there's another 1,000 decisions to be made on trim style, door style, window style, like all these things. And if you're not able to see that, it makes it difficult because when you see it in the field, you may go, oh man, you know what? That's just not it. I'm about to spend big money, so I'll go ahead and eat this truckload of trim or whatever the return cost is, and then you start adding to the budget with change orders, doing that stuff.
So I got another question. I know we mentioned you do kind of higher end homes and custom homes. I know you have a neighborhood that you worked on too, where you kind of have your own designs and spec homes. Are change orders allowed on those? And if so, kind of when is the drop dead line of, yeah, no, you can't do anything else anymore? Like, we got to finish out with what we got.
Sometimes I wish I had that policy, but I don't, because I'm passionate about the things that we do. At PGD, that's basically what our company stands for, is people, growth, and diversity. So with us being custom home builders, I don't really see how I could tell my client that they're not allowed to make a change. I go into the project knowing that there's going to be changes. So for me to try to charge you for a markup because you want to change something, that doesn't make sense. I'm not a trike home builder. I'm a custom home builder. So I do things that are unique. And if you come to me at the last moment with something, I want to do it because it's probably going to be cool.
Yeah, that's not what you get often from a lot of builders.
No.
But having the willingness to take on projects that may have some difficulty. Hey, we're going to figure that out, and we'll find the professionals to do that. That's a pretty cool thing that you guys do at PGD.
Yeah. So, throughout the build, I know there's certain things that happen, different checkpoints, inspections. You got city inspections, county inspections, homeowners inspections that come through. So, who all is inspecting the home during construction?
Yeah, so I would say, you're going to have, your county or city officials doing the inspections. If you don't have a inspection department, specifically, I know with our company, I have the 210 home warranty, so I pay to have a reputable inspector come out and do inspections for me. So, they're looking at, the foundation, the framing, the MEP, all of that stuff. But, again, so you're going to have the city officials, county officials, you're going to have the homeowner, you may even have their kids, telling you, hey, this don't look right. But most importantly, the person that's doing the most inspecting is us. We take pride in the homes that we build. We're not skipping any corners. We don't want no warranty issues. We believe strongly in that, in the fact of even when we're building in the county, we're still getting inspections, even though they're not required.
Yeah.
So, what should buyers know about the inspections, and should buyers be coming out and looking at projects?
I think, I think it's good for the homeowner to come out, and I encourage all my clients to come out, during construction. Please give me a heads up, let me know, something like that when you're coming out. But It's more beneficial to the homeowner to actually walk the job site with or without me, because I want them to know the bones, the structure of the house. What I don't want is you to move in and a year later you drill in a specific area and you busted a water line where you're flooding your house. But when you're a little bit more involved in the build process and you know where everything is, it helps you and me. But on top of that, during the build process, I have a program that I use where I take pictures and I upload it, and at the end of the job I download that file and I give that to you. So before you go and hang that 75-inch TV, you might want to look at what's behind the wall, and you have the capability
You
to
don't
do
want to
that.
hit a gas line.
That's right. Yeah, we don't want to shut down a whole city block.
You don't want to do that. Like, how do you, as a builder, because like we talked about, y'all do some pretty high end stuff. How do you watch and know that your subcontractors that you're using are like doing the quality work that they've kind of said they would? What are you doing to keep an eye on that?
Honestly, Luke, I don't have to keep an eye on it because everybody that I work with has a lot of experience, and and honestly they have more experience than I do, so I rely on them, but more importantly we work together. So it's not just my way, it's an input from my subs, from the homeowners, from myself. We all collaborate together.
Yeah, and that's back to what you and I were discussing in a previous episode, that it's all about that teamwork. It's all about making sure everybody's on the same page. And then, you've spent time vetting and building relationships with quality subs that have experience and know what they do.
Yeah, we don't really do too much like sub hopping or anything.
Right.
Everybody that I work with are people that started with us.
Right.
It's not, we're not out here like shopping around, doing competitive bids or anything on the homes. It's we're working with our subs that are going to deliver on time every time. And that's the only way that we're going to operate and run the company.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You mentioned something right there that's an interesting thing that we've kind of touched on, competitive bids. Explain that to somebody who's a new home builder. The first time they're building a home, what is a competitive bid versus what you guys do?
So I would say a competitive bid is where, that multiple people are, trying to win a project. Ultimately, we want to be able to feed our families. So we need to land jobs and stuff like that. So there's times where, you may need to cut down on your margin, your builder fee, or simply talk to the homeowner and just tell them, some of the selections that you've made, we need to reduce those if I have a good chance at getting this job within your budget. But I believe specifically in the power of transparency. You tell me what your budget is, and that's what I'm aiming for. I don't need any more money or anything like that. Like I told y'all, I'm not charging for a change order or nothing like that. It's my fee is what it is.
Right. Yeah, no, that's something we've been talking about a little bit is, I hear it all the time. Somebody comes in, they get a set of design plans, and they've talked with a builder who maybe referred them, and they're like, talked them up this whole time, and they get the plans, and then they're like, well, I'm going to go put this out for bid. I'm going to get a few bids on this. And really, it's so much more important to build a good relationship with your builder and have somebody you can work with. You're married to that person for 12 months or more, depending on your project, and have walked through some of their homes. I mean, like, y'all build niche houses that are super nice homes. The ones we've designed with you are like a very modern style. They have a modern take, either where it's modern farmhouse, modern traditional, or just very modern. So, and then there's other guys that maybe do like cottages, and that's what they specialize in, is a cottage type thing. So it's important to kind of build that out with your builder. And it's not a one size fits all thing, or hey, I'm going to look for the lowest bid amongst these 5 guys.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, depending on what you want, there's a different builder in the different niche market that you really need to walk their jobs and decide if their style is even what you want to be a part of.
That's right.
There's always going to be someone cheaper. If you have a quote from somebody, it doesn't matter if it's from me, from you, in different industries, there's always going to be someone cheaper, but cheaper isn't always the best option. I mean, if it's a budget that you're worried about and you're looking, then like you said, have that conversation. Like, we can aim for your budget, but if you just go start shopping, I mean, yeah, you'll probably find cheaper, but you probably won't be happy with it.
That's right. Yeah, sorry to jump down that rabbit hole, but like,
Yeah.
kind of circling back around. So we talked foundations. You got the foundation, you framed it, you got it in the dry, you've gone through roughing, gone through a finish work, house is getting wrapped up. So like, once the home's finished, what are like the final few steps before somebody moves in?
So specifically with us, is as the home's coming to a close, we're going to do a walkthrough. And basically in that walkthrough, we're looking for, defects or something that the client is not satisfied with. We're walking around the outside. We're looking at the brick. We're talking about landscaping. We're looking for dead plants, anything like that, obvious things that need to be addressed. And I lost my train of thought.
No, yeah, I mean, just like, as you're doing that final walkthrough, like, what is okay for clients to say, hey, Val, like, that doesn't look okay, or what is it okay for them to talk about with their builder?
Honestly, it's okay to talk about anything. Open communication is what I want, is what I expect. I don't want you to hide anything from me. I want you to be honest with me. I want you to tell me that, if my idea of quality and your idea of quality is something different, I want to talk about it open. I'm not, too prideful. I make mistakes. We all do. But I just want to fix it. And I want the opportunity to fix it. I don't want it to, sit inside where you're not talking about it, you don't tell me, and you're just upset. No, come to me, talk to me. We've all had that nightmare customer where during the walkthrough, I would call it, they're so excited that they tend to get carried away.
Right.
And basically, they may be on the floor with a flashlight looking at the drywall. And at that point, I can't help but just feel great about the project that I just did. I feel incredible, because if you got to get that close to find a defect, keep looking. So yeah. I'll stay here all night with you. But
so you mentioned earlier that your company uses 210 warranty for inspections throughout the process, but with that, what does the warranty look like after the home is complete?
Yeah, I would say. Again, with us, PGD, it's longer than the warranty. The relationship that we cultivate is long lasting. And that's why it's important that when you pick a builder, don't look at the short term. Hey, I'm going to be with this guy for 6 months to 1 year, but, long term, even if it's 3 to 5 years later, I still like getting the phone calls. It's like, hey, we're looking to add on, or we want to put a new roof on or something like that. I express to them that, stay engaged with me. Let me know if there's something else that you want to do, additions or anything like that. So yeah.
I'll tell you, man, it's a mark of a good builder to not be afraid of feedback, good or bad. If you get builders, hey, I'm in and out 12 months, cutting ties, that's my project, got my paycheck, I'm gone. Those are guys who don't want any kind of negative feedback, because ultimately, like, over time, somebody's going to go, hey, maybe this siding didn't age well, we want to fix this, is that covered under warranty? The answer may be no, but you as a builder are getting educated along with your client that, hey, the next build, maybe this product is a better product to use or a worse product to use. And it's good, like, being engaged like that. I think it's a mark of an awesome builder. So very, very good on y'all's part.
So what is covered under warranty?
I would say, obviously you could say, you got a structural warranty, the foundation of the home. You got your mechanical design, again, which includes your mechanical, electrical, plumbing, a roof warranty. Pretty much the whole house has a warranty for, at minimum a year or whatever the warranty period of a specific product is. Mm-hmm. There may be some things like, mechanical units. My warranty is with the mechanical unit. So that one is, let's say it's 5 or 10 years, or a motor goes out, or a fan, or a capacitor, or something like that. Genuinely, those warranties are longer than, the standard 1-year builder warranty.
Okay.
All right, so that home's wrapped up. It's done. The homeowner needs a certificate of occupancy to get in that thing. Tell us a little bit about that. What is a CO, and why do they need it?
Yeah, so CO, certificate of occupancy, is basically, we are now at a stage where the home is completed. And that's where your building officials, or, inspectors, whoever it may be, are coming back. They've signed off on everything. Everything has passed the final inspection. We're talking from, final gas inspection, lighting appliances, fireplaces. We're looking outside at the drainage away from the home. It's inclusive of everything in the home that was being constructed. So basically, once everybody has signed off or given a final, a CO will be issued to to the builder or whatever. Basically, at that point, I can tell the homeowner, hey, we've completed, we passed all inspections, here's the proof, and we are now completed with your home. So it's time for you to enjoy it.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So, we've covered a lot, and for anyone who has never built a home, it can be a very overwhelming process. So, I guess circling back and just kind of recapping, what's some of the biggest misconceptions a buyer can have about building a house?
Can we pause? Man,
Yeah.
that was a good question.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Yeah, no,
well,
you're good.
I work with a lot of buyers and mostly dealing with new construction. And what I would say when I'm working with buyers generally is time. They will get quoted on a project and they're like, 4 to 6 months if it's a track home builder, and they're thinking that they can hit it, but so they're planning everything around this. And especially when you get to the end and they're like, they got moving trucks lined up, they've taken off work, they got uncles and aunts flying in from out of town to help out, and they've turned utilities on already, they've switched it from the builder's name, and then that certificate of occupancy doesn't come, or they have a delay in getting appliances in, or garage door, something small that's going to delay, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, and they are just beyond themselves of like, I can't do that. I've already lined all this up.
Sold mother house. I have no place to go.
Yeah, kind of going off the script here, I got a little story for you. So I've been in that situation before. I built some apartments in Madison, and we ran into that exact same issue. Like, we had completed everything, all final inspections, and we were simply just trying to get the CO. And so, our city was growing so much, so they're backed up. So at this point, the leasing company has already started signing dates for people to move in. If you don't know much about the Rocket City, a lot of people are moving here. So we had people lined up. We had U-Hauls. We had people coming from Canada. We had all these things and all these people moving here, and they could not get in this apartment complex that we had recently just finished. Talk about stressful times.
Yeah.
And, it was, I felt bad, but thankfully we had a storage unit right beside the apartment complex. So we was able to help accommodate them. We got them rental units and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately we did get the CO. They did get moved in, but you never know. There can always be something that's going to pop up.
I think those time frames, like, they got to be communicated. People underestimate them a lot. You see it a whole bunch. One of the things I see is just being a big misconception is that I'm going to hire this builder, I'm going to sign this contract, and I'm going to walk off, and I'm not going to be engaged in this, and it's just going to get done. And then when I show back up, I want to be 100% happy with everything that happened. Like, some reason people sell themselves on that a lot. And they're just like, I'm just going to go work like normal, and I'm going to show back up, and exactly what's been in my imagination is going to be sitting there, and I'm good with it.
Yeah.
This is back to that teamwork, open communication has got to be a thing on a building project.
Yeah, you got to communicate, man. Got to have, clear expectations. And going back to the CO thing, typically what I tell my clients is don't schedule any moving, don't make any commitments until we have that piece of paper that says you're good to go. Because, people take off, they go on vacations, city may be backed up or something like that. So it's always better to get that piece of paper then plan your move in.
I try to tell people that all the time, and some people will lean into it and take the advice and plan accordingly, and some people will say yes, and then they'll try to gamble on what that date is going to be, and then everyone's just real upset that it can't be done on that day because of some kind of delay, whether it be weather, inspections, financing. There could be a delay. There's so many moving pieces in building a home that anything can delay it, and you just got to be prepared for that.
And if you're talking to your builder and your builder is talking to you, you know these things like well in advance. You kind of know what to do. So what would be some advice you would give to buyers to avoid delays and frustrations in building?
Make your selections early. Be open-minded, be okay to pivot, because the end goal is for you to move in. And if you got a set expectation where let's say you're trying to be in by Christmas, and you've selected this tile that's going to take 8 weeks to come in, you should know that not having the tile is going to affect a lot of other trades. So therefore, basically, you may be dead in the water for 8 weeks. And your timeline of Christmas has already passed at this point. We're looking at moving in January. So always be aware of when you make changes or the selections that you make, they have timelines associated with it. You're no longer just talking about a product that's going to be installed, but you're talking timelines as well.
Yeah, everything's got an impact. Every decision affects like a dozen other decisions.
It does.
Yeah.
So, if someone's choosing a builder, whether it's you or somebody else, what's some of the key questions that you think a buyer should be asking a builder?
Show me your portfolio.
Yeah.
I would say, let me see the houses that you built. Most importantly, probably the simplest thing is check the reviews first. Reviews are extremely important. We always try to, advocate that, reviews is how we get business. So, look into your builder, figure out, the location that they're in, where they're willing to travel, all those kind of things. There's a lot of things that you need to look into other than just building a home. Are you a fit to work together? Do the personalities jive? What kind of person are you? And, because some people are, different in making selections. Like, specifically I work with a lot of engineers, and they're real technical. And if your builder when you're making your selection of a builder, ask them simple questions and see what's the response time. How quick do they respond? How fast do they get you that estimate? Because if they're not quick to give you an estimate or give you something, that kind of sets the foundation for what you could expect.
Right.
Yeah, you can avoid a lot of frustration, because if you have this expectation as a homeowner, I need everything super quick and I want this kind of personality to go with it, and you go pick somebody that's a little slow to respond and they don't have the right personality, you're setting yourself up for a lot of frustration down the road.
You'll just be upset the whole process.
And be miserable. That's why you keep hearing like, I'm never going to build a house again, because that's the way you did it.
Yeah.
And specifically, I know I'm glad you said that, but we're here to change the narrative. I don't want people to say, we're never going to build again, or that process was horrible. I encourage everyone to check us out, hear about us. I feel like ultimately they'll be saying, I'm ready to build again. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, do you have any advice you give to a home buyer? I feel like you you kind of nailed it on that last how to interview someone, but you know, if there's any kind of wrap up or anything else you would really suggest to a home buyer, you know, what would that be?
I would probably say the best advice that I could give to a home buyer would be land selection, because we all have the dream of the house on the hill, but you don't understand about how much that driveway costs or the utilities,
Right.
or you know, you may not have gas that you know is serviceable out there, and you may have to set a propane tank. But the house on the hill is a big dream, but let's be realistic and let's, you know, lost my train of
No,
thought.
So
I
have realistic expectations is what it's coming down to. So man, we appreciate you joining us today, Val. And if you guys want to take a look at Val and his company, it's www.pgdhomes.com, and his number is 256-509-3135. Y'all take a look at them, look at their reviews, look at their website, some of their upcoming projects they'll be posting. And thank you for tuning in with us here at Constructive Conversations.
So next week we will be talking about financing.
Yep, getting into the money of it.
Yep, we're going to talk about what the mortgage looks like for a new construction home and why it is different than purchasing a resale home. So
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Cool, man.